And we're in. Cool.
Hey,
Hello. Welcome to. I'm gonna turn my mic down because I just spiked. Cool, because I can do that. Welcome to Dice Jailers. I am Jordan,
Jacob. I'm Bjorn.
and we're gonna talk about some critical stuff. But
Yeah, we're talking
that's
about lots of stuff.
that's for the
First off,
future.
before we get into any of the stuff we've kind of prepared, how you doing, man? How's this week been for you?
Good. Got a lot of things done. Like not a whole lot of like really big, huge, important things, but like I finally got my cabinet back up in here, which is a
Nice.
nightmare getting up those stairs. Uh, in my old place, it used to hold all of my liquors and drinks and stuff, so I'm excited to put that back together. Right now, it just holds magic cards and my Mighty Nine minis right there. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. You're going to have to restock it with all that liquor it's supposed to hold. Like,
Well,
it's
I've
not
got
doing its true job.
some. uh, I just haven't put it in the right place.
I have to say, my favorite thing about that is on your "I'm getting things done" was you saying that with an obvious and almost visible question mark. I'm getting things
Well,
done.
yeah, because it's not like a huge thing, but it's
Sure.
nice to have a little bit more organization in my life. And
I
like,
mean,
I can see my floor again. I cleaned.
listen, let's not get ahead of ourselves in life.
I
Let's
I
not be
know
overachievers.
I did a lot. Like I put my laundry away actually folded.
Wow.
Yeah, I did a whole lot for quarantine at
You know what
least.
I did the last time my laundry was folded? I threw it immediately in my clean laundry hamper, stacked up, so I could just kind of like grab. I have two hampers: my clean
Right.
laundry hamper and my dirty laundry hamper, because I'm so bad at putting laundry away. So you have to have two.
That it goes folded into the stack.
Exactly. So where you're at is so superior to where I'm at in terms of that level of organization. So I do truly applaud you. In fact,
I
I have a rack of shirts over here. Thankfully, at a view of the camera, they're all dry now. I haven't taken them off the rack. In fact, my skull shirt here that I'm wearing today, I pulled that off the rack to put onto my body, even though it was clean. We didn't know. We don't put those away. We have a process because we live in quarantine, and who gives a shit?
but I mean, it's not like it's that bad for you to have a lot of things that you haven't done because you're also rehearsing for a show.
This is true. I am rehearsing for a show. It's called "Everyone Wants to Love Your Beating Heart." It is with Playlist Seattle. We open a week from tomorrow,
Yep.
which is so surreal. I'm excited because it's not going to be Zoombox theater. They're actually editing us out of our own
Ooh.
spaces that we're performing in. They're going to be editing us all into scenes together. It will appear as you are seeing multiple actors in the same scene. I don't know how this is going to get pulled off, but we'll see. So it'll be live theater of people across the nation in different locations. If anybody who's watching, if you look up Playlist Seattle, just look them up. There's a thing down at the bottom. Our current show, Everyone Wants to Love Your Beating Heart. And if you look at it, when you read the description, the money for the tickets on this, it's going to a couple cool charities. So that's really awesome.
And this amazing show that Bjorn is doing is also why for the next 2 weeks we are going to be roughly an hour earlier.
Yes,
So we'll be at what that would make it 4:45.
4:45.
Just to give Bjorn time to still do the show, still do this for all of you watching now or live or in the future,
Exactly.
but also to be able to do his show.
Yeah.
Uh,
My call
because
time those nights is 6 p.m. I have to go live with our tech folks and make sure everything is up and going. And while I know deep down, if I ask them, "Hey, I have this other thing I do weekly. What if I got on like right at 6:30?" I know they would say yes. However, they have worked so hard to help us as actors look good that the last thing I'm going to do is ask them to stress about anything regarding
right.
myself. I want to be there for them, because all I'm doing is looking at locations that I've marked in my apartment as to where the different characters are supposed to be, and memorize my lines. They have painstakingly edited this show together with various shots, various uses of changing what size we are in some of the shots, in editing us in and out. They've worked so much harder than I have. So I'm like, I'm not asking those guys for shit, because they're
Right.
amazing. I love them and appreciate them.
I mean, and that's a big thing. And like, shout out to like all the all the unnoticed heroes of theater, being stage managers, production managers. I
Yes.
mean, when it comes to film, camera ops, audio editors, just audio people recording you in the moment. It's huge. It's big. It's important. And
It's
basically,
like,
just like actors, they are all also out of jobs right now. So stay home and wear your masks and whatnot.
exactly.
Uh, so we
And,
can.
and when you, for those masks you wear, you may feel like, I have these same ones I've been wearing for a few months and they're getting kind of old. Get some new ones, but buy them from independent artists who make them.
Mhm.
There's so many people who are making really, really cool masks right now. You can find them independently. You can go on places like Etsy or Redbubble, and you can make sure that you're funding artists directly with your money, which can be their money as well. You get cool new masks, they get some cash, and we all help out each other.
And like one of the things that I noticed talking about the unsung heroes of theater is so many of my friends that are costume designers are making masks and opening up those Etsy shops. So if you want to
Yes.
help theater, help those costume designers out, get a mask from a theater person. Uh, and with those, and talking about masks, and if they're kind of old, there's a chance that they might fail while they're on your face,
They
critically, in fact.
They could fail at a critical moment.
And also wearing
That's
your
what we
mask.
call a segue.
I thought that's what they called those friggin' scooters. Anyway,
Dude, I want to ride one of those so bad.
I know you do.
I have never been on a Segway, and every time I see one, I just think to myself, if I tackle that person on the Segway and I crank up that Segway, will it go fast enough that they can't catch me?
No, absolutely not.
It depends on who's on it. Now, I'm not advocating for violence or theft right here, because I've never done it. I'm just saying it runs through my mind every time I see one. I'm like, if they run as fast as I do, they'll never catch that thing.
But what if they run faster than you? That's the gamble.
Okay. Most people run faster than me.
Dumb. So dumb. This is
Or
why I
is
love you
it?
and love this stupid show with you.
Me too.
Talking about critical fails and
Yes.
critical successes is was our plan for the main show today. But now I just want to talk about the imaginary circumstance where you would steal a friggin' Segway.
I mean, so if I needed to cover a large distance, right? But I needed to do it very gradually and at an even pace. Okay. You ever seen the movie Speed?
Absolutely.
Okay. So the bus, if it goes below a certain speed, 55, it's going to blow up, right? Now, what if someone went above a certain speed? I don't know, this cataclysmic disaster would happen. So you need to be on a Segway. So you can be at this very even but not too fast speed.
Right, because it'd have to be like if it was at like speed rules, you can't stop, but you can't go over a certain speed.
Right. Yes.
It's like the inverse speed.
Yeah.
I kind of want to shoot this borrowing one of those like tour guide segways that they always
Hey,
have
sure.
down at Seattle Center.
Yep.
Or the Armory or whatever they're calling it now.
Sure.
I don't know what freaking name it has now, but
See?
doing that with those?
That's what I'm saying.
And just doing
who doesn't
circles
wanna see
around the
that?
fountain.
So-
Just
Oh yeah, yes. Just do it for a laugh. It'd be great. It'd be great. Ooh, or I got the next one for you. You ready for this? Segway jousting.
absolutely not. I've seen
No?
videos of it, and it's hilarious, but looks so painful.
I mean, I didn't say either of us had to be involved. See, I want to drive a Segway very badly. This is on a list of things I really want to do, and I'm not even joking a little. However, for
I
Segway
know you're
joust,
not.
I just want to get just a couple people with nothing better to do, but also no disregard for their own body, who might be willing to do such a thing.
What is Speed? The legend is Paul Blart. Thanks, chat.
There you go. Yeah.
God, that's so dumb, and I love it.
Exactly.
I'm here for it.
Yeah. It'd be like Speed meets Paul Blart meets A Knight's Tale.
Oh my. Yes, absolutely. That would be a critical hit at the theaters.
Yeah. I think so.
For anyone that has not played any tabletop role playing game but is still watching this, one, thank you, and two,
How did you get
critical. Yeah, right. Like, how did you make it here? You must know us. But a critical hit is when you roll the highest. Depending on which system you're in, rolling the highest on whatever your dice is to hit or to do something. In D20 systems, that's rolling a 20 on the 20-sided die.
You hear the
inverse.
term natural 20 used
Yes.
a lot in that. And if you hear
And
natural 20, it's perfection.
It's a cause for celebration because it's the best you can do, which sometimes still might not be enough, which is really fun. Yeah. The inverse, though, is rolling, say if we're in a D20 system, like Bjorn and I usually play in, you roll that nat 1.
That's right.
Oh.
And yeah, and depending on how things work, like if you're in combat and it's an attack roll, the way the rules work is that 20, that is an automatic success. No matter what your skills are for that attack, and no matter what the defense is of what you're attacking, 20 means you hit. Conversely, that 1 means that even if you're this 20th level with blessings from an actual deity or two, this mighty paladin going to smite, I don't know, like a 3-legged frog, and you roll a 1,
Frog Matrix.
Yeah, you fail. And there are different rules. Like if you're trying to do something just with a skill check, a 1 isn't necessarily a failure, and a 20 isn't necessarily a success. A very common example I see bandied about in various forums that I visit is the idea that the extremely charismatic bard walks into the chambers of the emperor and says, I want you to relinquish your crown and give your kingdom to me. The player insists they're rolling a persuasion check. They roll a natural 20 and the player wants to insist, well, I have a 20, so this emperor has to do it. And that's not how that works.
Nope. You can be as lucky and charismatic as you want. Yeah. It's not going to happen.
Exactly. For me as a DM, that's where I would go, oh, okay, you got a 20 on that. That's really cool. So here's what happens. The emperor decides he's not going to execute you. He thinks this is hilarious, and he now wants to offer you a job in his court as an entertainer, and it's a pretty good gig. Here's the salary it pays. You'd get your own room in the palace. You'd have access to A, B, and C, but you were so charming and so amusing. That's what he's offering. And that's what we want to get into here is the best critical hits and the best critical failures aren't just a matter of, well, I rolled this number on the math rock. I mean, that's a part of it. But the most important part, I think, and tell me if you disagree, is the storytelling that you build around that moment.
Well, and it always depends on your DM, because there are some DMs that go with the hard and fast, like, nope, if it's a 1, no matter how good you are at the thing, you fail. If it's a 20, no matter how bad you are at the thing, you succeed. It really just depends on your DM. Personally, I like to set thresholds for both. Be like,
Sure, sure.
well, it's a 1 and you fail, but you're still kind of good at it, so you don't break your arm while tying your shoe or
Sure.
something like that. But at the same time, I'm gonna, like, as a DM, I'm gonna make it funny. Like,
Well,
if it's a
'cause we're
success
playing a
in
game. You're
combat,
supposed to have fun,
yeah,
right?
like in combat, if it's a success, there's a chance. Like, if it's a success and you reduce the enemy to 0 hit points, you're gonna get the coolest description of how you killed that monster.
Exactly.
But on the inverse, and this is the fun that
One.
I have as a DM, because I a lot of times like to make my players roll for nonsense things, and I call them don't botch checks, and
Sure.
it's just roll to see if you roll a 1, and then the off chance that it's a 1, then it becomes funny. I
Sure.
had once where, like, level 1 adventurers, classic, rats in the cellar, beginning of every grand adventure that doesn't start in a bar. Uh, but it was for a half orc, a shop owner. And so the half orc, so happy that they took care of this, gave one of the less strength based characters a bear hug. And I had them roll a constitution save to see how they held up to that hug.
Oh no.
And they rolled a 1. So this
Yes, they
bear
did.
hug squeezed a couple damage out of him. And, like, I was setting the players up to go to bed and sleep, so they were going to heal. It's going to be fine. It was just for flavor. But just the funny of, you made this half orc so happy that he hugged you so hard it hurts.
Well, and you can, if you have having a good DM. So this was, I think it was late 2018. There's a great comic shop in my neighborhood, Outsider Comics. And when we were in the before times when we could go and gather and interact with people, um,
Miss it.
I know they would run a lot of one shots there, and you go, you show up, you play, you play your one shot. It got to the point where they were getting so many people who would sign up that if you were going to do it, you had to pay a small fee, which I didn't mind. They have a staff member who's staying late after the store's technically closed so that we can do this. So I'm like, it's $5 for me to have 3 hours of entertainment. I'm in. So we're playing this one shot where a bunch of us are, we've landed on an airship. We have to recover some MacGuffin. I don't remember what it was, but not terribly important. And there are a couple big, like, burly enemies on there. And I'm playing a sorcerer. And I'm very charismatic, but I don't have a whole lot in hit points. Well, we had these jump potions, and one of our other players, Jay, who you know, he had decided he was going to use his jump potion to plant his back against the floor of the airship and then put his feet on basically our equivalent of a big bad evil guy. He was like an orc lieutenant or something like that. And then he was going to try and, quote, jump to launch this guy over the side. Jay rolled a 1.
Oh no!
The DM ruled that he didn't have his shoulders square, and he launched himself off this guy's back and over the edge of the airship and plummeted hundreds and hundreds of feet to the ground below. Yes, I mean, and here's the thing. We're right near closing time for the shop. We've been told, hey, hope you guys wrap it up in the next 5-10 minutes. And we're like, yeah, of course, we will. And we're working on wrapping it up. And he was also the most powerful character in our party. So we watch this guy go falling to his death. And it's just, oh no. And then it gets to my turn. It's the DM says, okay, it's your turn. What do you do? I go, okay, as my action, I look at the orc lieutenant. I look over the edge of the ship. I look back to him. I go, he said he could get to the ground before you. And the DM goes, roll a persuasion check. No, roll a deception check. And I'm like, cool, same number either way. Roll natural 20. So he rules. He goes, this orc looks at you very sternly and goes, I'll show him, and leaps over the edge of the ship. And that was how we ended the session. This was the end of it. And to this day, that is my favorite natural 20 I've ever rolled, to have just this idiotic orc be like, oh, F that guy. Ah! Just leap over the edge of this airship.
That's
so it
amazing.
It was an amazing crit fail and crit success in that one of the player characters just friggin' launched himself to his doom. And through a deception check, I caused this individual to hurtle towards oblivion.
That's just so great. I mean, and that's the storytelling things that you can do. I mean, obviously you probably wouldn't have that happen in a game where like that orc was the big bad of a long running campaign. But
right.
For one shot, shenanigans.
Oh yeah, and it was great because full on, I'm looking at my spells and I'm looking at how many hit points I have left, and I'm looking at this burly ass orc and I'm going, I have nothing. And I look at the little battle map we're on. I'm also the closest one to him. I'm going, this guy is going to like pound my character into just like a fine goo. He'll use me like to polish, like I'll be like a water sealant for the wooden planks here. Like that's what we done. We was I know, right? Well, I mean, that's what happens when you have no hit points.
I mean, yeah.
So yeah, like that was fun, and that's one of those crit misses, crit successes. I've always remembered those two, just because like we had a great DM who made some great storytelling about it. Like, do you have any memorable ones that stand out?
I've got a couple in mind. None of them in my mind are that great.
I mean, credit to the DM.
Yeah, I do have one that's close to that level of funny. So it was in the first like proper campaign that I ever played. This was in college, and we had this group, and we had our rogue. We were playing 3.5, and our rogue decided to model himself after Batman. So he put.
So he had dead parents?
Actually, weirdly enough, his parents weren't dead.
Okay.
But like,
well, you gotta fix that if he's gonna be Batman.
We actually ended up helping the character's father become mayor of his hometown, and it was a whole thing. Anyway, but we were getting accosted by this red dragon, and there were very few of us that had any ranged weaponry. We were also very low level, and went, well, this is a dumb idea to fight him, but we have no other choice.
But who doesn't love dumb ideas?
And so, I'm playing a ranger, so I'm just shooting arrows at it, having the time of my life, doing my normal combat anyway. And our rogue, who decided he wasn't going to have a bow, because Batman doesn't use guns, so he would not use a bow. Anyway. Character choices. Anyway.
Sure.
So he takes his grappling hook, which he had been using for everything. And he takes his grappling hook, throws it. Nat 20. It loops around the dragon's neck. So then we all, as a party, all hold our actions to together try and yank this dragon down. Group check. There were a number of 20s. Note, this was a magical rope.
Okay. Yeah, I hope so.
Yep. It was a magical rope, so it didn't just snap, which would have been just as funny. And so a number of us rolled very, very high on our strength check and just yoinked this dragon down so hard into the ground that the DM ruled that uh, the dragon was like embedded in the dirt a bit and was gonna have to take an action to like get up
Dig
out
its
of the
ass out.
ground, and yeah, and then we just wailed on it. But that's just that nat 20 of grappling hook. And that same character used that grappling hook for multiple other nat 1 and nat 20 times that were hilarious and just about the same kind of shenanigan. Like, we choked out a Hydra at one point in that game. Because it started to become our party's thing that he would just throw the grappling hook and then we'd all grab onto it and pull.
If it's a Hydra, that's a long rope. You're gonna have to like rope it around like 10 friggin' necks.
It was we hadn't cut off any of the no, we'd only cut off like one neck, so it only had two, so it only had to loop and choke two out at once. But it was still just lots of shenanigans. And
Well,
it became our party's kind of like thing for a little bit, so we just kept doing it.
you can even have natural ones that as a player or as a party can be beneficial to you. Thinking back, so in our campaign going almost 2 years now, this is going back in time. Oh gosh, we'll say 18 months for us, maybe not quite that.
What, were we back in Whitestone?
No, it was before you guys got to Whitestone. It was when you were still in Western. This
Gods.
is when Eric was still in the party.
Wow.
So you guys had met an NPC in the very first session I ran named Thomas Pinch, who's still alive. Now, I'll get into conversation with you about Thomas and Cassidy and the ways the campaign could have gone from these two NPCs, because I had decided the story was going to go one or two ways, depending on which one of those two lived. But you guys had to break Thomas Pinch out of a jail. And you guys agreed to do it. And there was a moment where, and I constantly refer to the entire party as a group. And it's not always applicable to all the members, but usually enough of them that I think it's fair, where I always refer to them as, well, these idiots.
Yes.
So you
that
guys...
that is proper.
You guys decided that one of you would act as if you were bringing in another prisoner by having one of your lowest charisma characters pose as a guard using a hat of disguise. I still understand why you didn't have the bard to do it, but wasn't up to me. And
because the bard wasn't the person with military experience.
But the person with military experience was
playing the part of the town drunk that they were bringing in.
And your lizard folk rogue and the town drunk, between you, I don't remember, one of you had what looked like a hump on your shoulder.
Oh, that was me.
That was you, yeah. So you had the goblin under there. And the goblin decided to speak.
It did.
And so when the hump spoke and the guard went to pull the blanket off of you, I will never forget the moment as Phoenix, the player who played the rogue at the time, warlock now, goes, I stab him. I just go, make an attack roll. And he did, and it was a natural one. And that was, it was a great moment to me, because like I had stats for the guards. I knew what their armor class was. And you guys were only like level 5 at that point. So
something like that.
It's not like his to hit bonus was insane. But all of a sudden I had this thought where I'm like, if this strike lands,
we're boned.
Yeah, like these guards are going to attack you. It's going to change the entire dynamic. So literally a natural one by just this feeble and utterly failed attempt, it ended up changing the entire campaign. Or I should say it kept it on course, because if a higher roll had happened, it could have drastically changed the way the story was told. And if the attack had been successful, who knows where we go, where the town guard is now attacking you guys and you all have to get out. And then now, does this person you're trying to break out of jail, do they survive? Like, what happens with them? And
like, is there a prison riot?
Yeah, it's really interesting how sometimes one roll of the dice can change everything. And I think that's part of what I love about the crit fails and successes.
Oh yeah, it's great. It's in because we usually play D&D, usually 5th edition for us.
Yes.
But I've been playing a bit of Pathfinder 2 lately. And
yeah, before you continue, because I haven't looked at Pathfinder 2 at all, please tell me it doesn't use the confirmed criticals crap from 3.5.
No. But what they do is that rather than a critical fail or a critical success being that natural 1 or that natural 20,
okay,
it is beating beating whatever check it is or failing whatever check it is by a certain amount.
Okay.
So like
I can
you
get
can
behind
roll a
that
2
bit.
and still critically fail, which is interesting. But it also has like, this is what happens when you critically fail in the book.
Okay.
Like specifically on spells, they have where like if you cast a spell and the opponent that it's targeting has to do a save, they can critically succeed on that save, and then the spell does in some cases like a quarter damage instead of half damage. Or if you critically fail, there's an extra detriment to you.
Okay.
Like I think it's either like Chill Touch or Ray of Frost that if you critically fail getting hit by it, or no, Ray of Frost is a critical hit when you damage with it. It also lowers whoever you hit speed.
Mhm.
And they have that with every spell, and they have it with most checks as well.
Okay.
And
I can get behind
interesting.
That was the one thing I remember hating from 3rd edition / 3.5, where you would roll a natural 20, like, yes, and I go, okay, we'll roll again to confirm the critical. I'm going, what is there to confirm? My die shows 20. It's right there. Look at it. Confirmed. So that's a little thing I never liked from that iteration, but that's getting us off topic.
I mean, most DMs that I played with house ruled that away.
Thank goodness.
Because
mine didn't.
Yeah.
Talking about you, Nick.
That's rough.
Talking about you, Nick. I love you. Talking about you. You're probably not seeing this.
Can you tell me what's a time where you have needed to you've needed to struggle to figure out what to do with a nat 1?
Honestly, that moment I was just talking about, where your guys' rogue went to stab this guard. Like, there was a moment where I'm going, what do I do with this? Because he went to attack, but it completely fails. And so I kind of had to create a bit of a narrative there, where the guard kind of wondered if this lizard dude was totally inept as well, and making sure, well, that person's be thrown into the jail now also. But I know anytime one of my players rolls a 1, I never want the result to just be, well, you fail, it doesn't work, your turn's over, too bad, so sad. And so, especially as higher levels happen. And so I've learned to, if they roll that nat 1, to maybe have it be a circumstance of the environment that caused, maybe it's like miss an attack. They're going to fire an arrow at something. And I go, the wind kicks up and some leaves blow by, and they kind of get in your eyes, and you're just not able to take the shot. Or I'll give it as a credit to whoever they're attacking, where, again, they fire an arrow, it's a nat 1. I go, okay, you fired at this individual, and they catch the arrow out of the air and turn their gaze right at you. because I think that makes it's better storytelling. It makes a more dramatic moment because
Mhm.
no one wants to feel ineffective in a combat because combat can take between 45 minutes to 3 hours depending on
To
what you're doing.
do what in game is like a half minute of a fight.
Yeah. And if you have characters that are just missing all their attack rolls, I think if you give a narrative about what a nearly impenetrable defense this enemy has,
Hmm.
makes better storytelling than just going, well, you missed, because that's just not as interesting.
Hmm.
So I think I struggle a little bit with every Nat 1 to make it worthwhile in story. And I think the ones that are the most fun is if it's on a skill check,
Oh
like
yeah.
like the Trixia, the bard in your guys' party.
Hmm.
I think he has a plus 16 to
It's
perform.
something stupid.
Yeah, meaning if Jamie rolls a 1, then her result is a 17. Well, if it's like I'm playing a song, you roll a 1, you get a 17, you're playing a pretty good song. So to me, the narrative on that would be you whip into this song, you didn't think to check if your instrument was tuned, and you realize
Hmm.
one of the strings is out of tune. So you're having to adjust how you play some stuff. But the idea being you're so skilled as a musician, you can play around that. So
Yeah.
it's still good, but the reason it wasn't great is part of it was out of tune.
Hmm. And I dig that, and it's like creative thinking around that, that I think is the mark of a DM that's had practice.
Yeah.
You know, like it's
And, and,
never
and the
like
practice is endless, as you know.
absolutely, because we rolled so many goddamn ones. Uh, like we have in a game that I'm playing in slash DMing, because we're co-DMing. It's a whole thing. We
Sure.
actually put in a system of counting the nat ones that you roll, and later exchanging those nat one points for a thing of like from
Okay.
like learning from your failures. Like we have it's like 35 or 40 or something like that. I don't remember. We have it written down. It's like 35 or 40. You can use those points to buy a feat, like a whole feat.
Oh, nice.
Uh and
Interesting.
like the lower ones are like you can buy skill proficiency, or you can buy like knowledge of a language, as long as it makes sense that like you failed at that so many times that you're now good at it.
Okay.
And it's an interesting thing that we've kind of done, partly because the my co-dm is a relatively incredibly new dm, and so he has all these other ideas of things that we can implement to make things interesting and different. And I kind of rein some of those ideas in, but some of them are really cool, like that points from failure thing.
So now, maybe not necessarily for you, but in a game you've been in, and it can be for you if you'd like, do you
Mhm.
have a favorite natural 20 moment that's happened? Like everyone at the table just lost their mind in it. And if you need a
Mhm.
minute to think, I have an example. It's not even for me.
Yeah.
Um,
I definitely do.
okay.
This was a game that I played in. It was a one shot with a couple of friends of mine, and we had we were playing high level characters already. Like the one shot, basically was, and we played the entire day. Like it was a like we meet up at noon. We're gonna play until we're drunk and falling asleep on the couch.
Sounds perfect.
Like, yeah, a beautiful, beautiful day.
Hell
Uh,
yeah.
and so we started at level like I think it was like 13 or 14, and we got up
Okay.
to like level 18 or 19. I think we maybe even hit 20 by the end. Things got a little fuzzy near the end. But
Yeah, as they will.
one thing that was not fuzzy was when we were taking down the big bad. The DM had built up this I can't remember what he named it, but it was basically a new greater devil that was taking over not just one of the hells, but all 9 hells.
Jeff. Named it Jeff.
Yes, Jeff. But taking dominion over all 9 hells. And we got in this knockdown, drag out fight with him. There's 5 party members, the big bad's minions,
The big bad
and
wolf.
also the big bad wolf was there. And of all people, our halfling ranger, sharpshooter shot, already has the big bad hunters marked. Sharpshooter shot, nat 20. And we all go nuts. Because this arrow, the DM describes it as this arrow, you see, it gleams with the light of a deity that your halfling definitely does not follow. And this radiant energy surrounds this arrow and flies directly through his skull, piercing through the hells. And for years and years to come, back on the material plane, it's said that you could have seen that arrow fly out of the hells and pierce into the material plane and fly through. And just that bit of coolness after all day of building up how big and bad this dude is, to just see the tiniest member of our party just headshot. It was just so good.
When Frodo's had enough.
Pretty much.
So I was playing in a campaign, and I mentioned it in weeks past here. One that's long since fallen apart, but it was kind of the capper session to a certain story arc in it, and we were fighting this witch that, as she flew around, had the ability to somewhat deflect projectiles. So all ranged attacks were at disadvantage.
Just ping.
Yeah, our fighter, who was an archer, Jamie's character.
Mm-hmm.
We got this badass archer fighter who takes a shot on this witch who we know is looking rough. We're like, we're gonna put her down soon. Rolls nat 20. We all as players go nuts. We're excited. We know this is gonna be the final shot. We know her bow's got this special ability. We do this extra stuff on top of it. And the DM goes, well, roll again. It's at disadvantage because of the thing. And then roll natural 20. We lose our damn minds. And this was that AFK Tavern up in Everett. We're jumping up from the table. We're screaming. We're running around in circles. Every player's high-fiving all the others. It was just this incredible moment. Just seeing those 2 20s happen on a disadvantage roll. Yes,
right.
It was a killing blow. It was great. It was just this epic moment. I think that's my favorite nat 20 I've ever seen rolled. Because it was just like, yep, absolutely done with this. Absolutely done with your nonsense. Nat 20, roll it again. I said what I said. Just gloriousness. Those moments when the dice tell a story.
Yeah, and I think that's most of what we talk about boils down to the dice tell the story. When we talked about Superstitions, episode 1, the dice are gonna do what the dice are gonna do because they have a mind of their own, even though they're definitely just shiny math rocks that roll because of physics.
Yeah,
no, well, I mean, they tell stories.
You've watched Critical Role's The Search for Grog, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Spoiler alert, but it's been out for a while. So they get to the end of that, and you talk about dice telling stories. You have this party that has traveled through a level of the abyss to rescue this character, a storyline that was being played because one of the players, the original campaign, drew out of the deck of many things. Don't draw out of the deck of many things.
No, always draw out of the deck of many things.
Just so you know, the deck of many things is in our campaign somewhere. Just throwing that out there.
I mean, Hob and I are gonna grab them.
I
Hob and I will immediately pull those cards.
It'll be interesting. but yeah, so you got this guy who's on this plane of the abyss because he drew a card from this thing and literally got the worst card possible.
Yep.
As he's in prison somewhere, the party gets to where he's being held. They free him. It's that player's turn, and you have this, badass Goliath barbarian who, for his 2 attacks, first one rolls a natural 20. Second one, with advantage, rolls another natural 20, does enough damage to finish off this thing they were facing. And what makes it great is, here it is. He pops out. It was the search for Grog. Grog shows up, kills this thing with a pair of nat 20s, because when barbarians crit, things die. Like,
Yeah.
nothing,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
nothing top a high-level barbarian critting. People can have all the assassins with their sneak attack crits they want. No, I'm sorry. A barbarian critting is better because you get to roll a d12 lots.
Yeah.
But this incredible moment, and then on top of it, the actual cast needed to get the hell out of their theater because their parking was about to expire.
Mm-hmm.
Because they had trouble finding parking before the show. Like, and the thing was, to anyone who goes like, "Oh well, it's scripted and crap," the cameraman zoomed in on the second natural 20. Like,
Yeah.
it was there. It was physically there.
Like, that just happened.
Yeah, and you couldn't script a moment that good. Like, the idea that
No.
Grog shows up, double crits, turns this thing into pavement lotion, and we move on. It was this great moment. So, like, those are the 20s I love. Like, do I love when I roll in that 20? Absolutely. Like, especially with a lot of the types of characters I like to play, because I usually play martial classes. So critting on those hits is awesome. I actually enjoy other people's crits more because I get to watch how it all unfolds.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm DMing, yeah, I don't always love it when my players crit against my monsters or against but
I'll say we
But
as
getting
players
these-
love it when your monster, I don't know, crit fails against a stunning strike.
we're not going to talk about that. But being able to describe those moments, be able to narrate it, because when you watch a player's face as you're narrating this great moment they had, you can see them feeling it. And on that, I want to segue into this is my other favorite nat 20 I witnessed. Outsider, the comic shop I previously mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I was playing a one shot there, and there was a young lady there who was part of the one shot, had never played D&D before. I still remember her name was Juliana, and she played a dwarf cleric, and she early 20s. She'd been listening to a lot of Tupac lately, so she wanted to play a character named Tupac because Tupac's awesome. She wanted to be awesome, and we're all like, "Hell yeah, dwarf named Tupac, we love it." So we're in the final combat. This is gonna be the encounter. That's the end of the whole thing. I don't even remember what it was we were fighting. Doesn't really matter. But it gets around to her turn. We've gone a few rounds. She rolls to attack. Natural 20. Does enough damage. It finishes off the monster. Everyone at the table, when she rolls that 20, goes berserk. We're up, we're cheering, we're high-fiving her, we're excited. And then the DM, he's like, "Okay, talk us through this. How do you finish this monster off?" And the two of them work out this narrative of how her character ends this combat and wins it. And to me, like, that was great. This person who had never played before not only got to get the killing blow, but having it be on a nat 20 where we all just lose our minds and get excited. And that's where I go back to why I love this game so much. Like constantly I'm baffled and I'm reminded and excited about this is the best game ever. You get to get together with a group of people you like, ideally. And you collaboratively tell a story. And if you have a DM who's willing to let it be about the group story and not about the narrative they want to push, you know, willing to let some control go to the players. And we have players that are willing to invest themselves in the story and aren't going to be like, well, I'm going to go off by myself and do this thing, or they're going to have to convince me to come with, because that's
not fun.
Yeah, it's such a struggle. But when you have everybody working together, you could have those moments that for an instant,
everything's great.
Yeah, you're just all celebrating as a group, and there are moments that you remember, and it's phenomenal. And the thing is, and I'm sure you've had this, I know I've had it as a DM, where player, it's their turn, they get a natural 20, they do their damage, you have them walk through how they destroy this boss creature that's going to end the adventure, and you're looking at your sheet where you've been keeping track of HP. That creature had 1 hit point left. They could have sneezed on it and they would have killed it. But here's the thing. You're never going to tell them that.
Oh, absolutely not.
Because that moment of excitement it's pure and it's great and it feels good, and you get to share it. And then conversely, I'm sure you had this as a DM, they crit, and they roll all that damage, and then after you do it, it killed your creature by like 1, and on its next turn, you were going to have it flee.
Yep.
Now you don't get to.
Now you got to change up your story.
Yeah.
So the lines on my face and shoulder are telling me we're getting close to time.
Yep.
So we should say our last couple of things. I know for me, crit fails, I love them to death. They're super fun. Use them in creative ways because they're ridiculous. Like,
yes, please.
And have your it may seem tedious and kind of dumb, but for me, some fun nat 1s and nat 20s have come from like nonsense rolls where it's just like, yep, like with the half-orc shop owner, just roll to withstand hug. Like, it could be dumb, but it could be hilarious.
Yeah, it's
so use those.
In social interactions, like, do that. Have fun with it. Have some silly things happen. Like, have a small amount of damage happen to a party member over something silly when you know they're going to get a rest and they're going to be safe. And if you're running a combat, though, and there's that natural 1 that fails, maybe, like, if you, for example, have a goblin monk in your party, I don't know where I might be getting that example from.
Where would you think of a goblin monk? I don't know.
But you've got that melee class that's running in to fight the big bad evil, whatever, and they roll a nat 1. Instead of narrating, like, you're the DM, you're literally the god of your world. Instead of narrating how that character fails at it, and like, don't have them slip on a puddle and fall on their back. The player already rolled a nat 1. It's combat, and combat's what this class does. Instead, if you want to up the tension, you describe in detail how the monk throws this punch towards whatever creature this is, and then you narrate how they catch their fist, stare at them menacingly before shoving them back, and then maybe move them back 5 feet, especially if that won't really mess up the rest of their turn. Yeah. You add a level of intimidation to this character you want your players to be afraid of, and you made the nat 1 interesting, but the player who it happened to, they're now more engaged. Like, my rule of thumb as a DM is always, how can I make this moment better for my characters? And it's hard for that with misses in combat, particularly critical misses. But if you always think around the idea of, well, this is the defense of this creature, monster, NPC, big bad evil guy, whatever, this is what they're doing, and then on critical misses for your players, well, this is how just incredible their defense was. This is just how well they've scouted you out. You can really weave that into a compelling narrative that when they do finally land that strike, you could talk about how they've been studying the defenses of this individual, and finally that strike gets through, and that player will be excited Like, keep the players who are rolling low engaged. Reward them with storytelling because you can't.
As always, keep it with the rule of cool. Make it interesting. Make
Hell
failure interesting. Make success interesting. And most importantly, make your lives interesting.
Please do.
Like, I know we're in quarantine, but try and do some fun safely. And just
Steal a segue.
last things to say before we jump back out. Remember that because of Bjorn's amazing show with Playlist Seattle, that
check it out.
next week we will be early. So remember to, and we'll post up on the Facebooks and on Instagram and on Twitch and on all the things. I'll change the schedule and whatnot. But be sure that we're gonna start at when?
We'll be starting at 4:45.
Absolutely. And we'll still only be going about an hour,
Yeah.
Which means you'll have time to, I don't know, make a more elaborate dinner and snacks before doing whatever you're going to do. I mean, I'll be watching Critical Role and or Bjorn's show, but, maybe I'll two-screen it. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, just go back and forth.
Exactly. Because I do have my two screens. But anyway, don't forget, as they say on Critical Role, don't forget to love each other.
Yeah, seriously.
Black Lives Matter, and
Black Lives absolutely
take care of
matter.
yourselves. Wear a mask. Be safe. Let's fucking beat COVID already.
Yeah, and when we say love each other, if you have friends you haven't talked to in a while, just send a message. Like, you have to be like profound. You have to talk at length. Just be like, hey, I realized we haven't talked hardly at all, and we're in quarantine. Hope you're holding up okay. Like, just check in on your people. Or if that's, more than your spell slots can handle, just take care of yourself. I find a very nice thing to do. Treat yourself in a little way once a week. If you're a beer drinker like I am, buy yourself a nice beer and savor it. If you don't partake in alcohol at all, get yourself a nice meal from somewhere. Think about a place that you loved eating from. Find out if they're doing takeout. Get takeout from them. Make a night of it. Do a little picnic. Put a movie on Netflix and just enjoy it.
Just
find ways
be
to
good
enjoy
to yourselves.
Yeah.
As always, we are the Dice Jailers. I am Jordan.
I'm Bjorn.
And we will see you next week at our slightly earlier time of
4:45.
See you next week, and be good to yourselves.
Take care, y'all.